So I've been flying the Antigravity A1 for about a month now, and at this point, the honeymoon phase is officially over. So now I want to answer the questions that actually matter. How good is this camera? Can you trust the obstacle sensing? Does the reframing workflow actually save time, or does it create more work? And whether you're using this recreationally or for something more commercial like real estate, how useful are these features in the real world? Let's take a closer look. Welcome to part 2 of this 4-video Antigravity A1 series. Today we're taking a deeper look at the A1's specifications, camera, flight performance, intelligent features, software, and overall workflow. Although real estate is one of the main applications I'm testing throughout this series, most of what we're covering today will also apply to regular creators, recreational pilots, and anyone looking for a different way to capture aerial footage. So if you missed part 1 where we covered the unboxing, setup process, beginner experience, and first impressions, I'll leave that link below and on screen. The Antigravity A1 is capable of recording 360 video at up to 8K at 30 frames per second. If you need 60 frames per second for smoother motion or some slow motion flexibility, you can drop down to 5.2K. But video isn't the only option. The A1 can also capture 360 photos, which shouldn't be overlooked, especially for real estate, virtual tours, location documentation, or any situation where you want to capture the entire environment in one image. One 360 photo can give you multiple traditional photos after reframing, or it can potentially be incorporated into a larger virtual tour workflow. Inside the goggles, you have access to both automatic and manual camera controls. And if you're completely new to photography or videography, auto mode will usually get you very usable footage. But if you're planning to use this professionally, it's worth learning a few basic camera settings before showing up to a paid shoot. A good general rule for cinematic motion is the 180-degree shutter rule. So for example, if you're recording at 30 frames per second, you would ideally use a shutter speed close to 1/60. However, outdoors on a bright sunny day, that might not be possible without additional filtration. And when flying between indoor and outdoor environments, fully manual exposure can also become difficult because the lighting changes so dramatically. For that reason, I often prefer auto exposure or exposure compensation when moving between interior and exterior spaces. Personally, I generally like to bring my exposure down slightly, usually around a half to 1 full stop, to help protect brighter areas and highlights. I also normally limit my maximum ISO to around 800 when possible to reduce visible noise, but if the environment requires it, I can push up to 1600. That can still be usable, but the cleaner you can keep the image you capture, the better. Now, white balance is another setting worth considering. Auto white balance often works well outdoors, but if you're filming on a partly cloudy day and the sun is constantly appearing and then disappearing, the colors can shift during the flight. In that type of situation, locking the white balance can help maintain a more consistent image. The more important advice that I can give before using this commercially is simple. Practice.
Practice.
Start outdoors with plenty of space and minimal obstacles. Just learn the camera, the controls, the flight behavior, and the software before attempting a complicated indoor flight or showing up to a client property. Now, when it comes to flight performance and the motion controller, overall the A1 has been very stable and predictable. It has a footprint similar to what many FPV pilots would consider a 5-inch quad, which gives it more stability outdoors and in moderate wind than something much smaller. That size makes it versatile for outdoor flights, larger spaces, and properties where conditions may not be perfectly calm. Now, the A1 currently comes with the grip controller. Coming from an FPV background, I wasn't actually sure how I was going to feel about flying exclusively with a motion controller, but it was actually a lot more intuitive than I expected. Within the first 30 to 60 minutes of flight time, the controls start to feel very natural. You're going to point, you rotate your wrist, and you guide the drone in the direction that you want it to travel. The image really fills your field of view, and the important flight information is really easy to see without feeling overly cluttered. It honestly feels a little like sitting in the front row of a movie theater while controlling where the camera goes. Now, before discussing battery life, let's take a quick look at the package options, because the battery you receive depends on the bundle. So the standard bundle includes one standard flight battery, and if you're working within a strict budget and simply want to get into the air, it's going to give you the essentials, but a single battery will naturally limit how long you can test or fly during one session. The Explorer bundle includes 3 standard batteries and a charging hub, so for someone who plans to fly regularly, this is probably the minimum package I would seriously consider. Now, the Infinity bundle, which is the package that I'm using, includes 3 high-capacity batteries for longer flight time. This is the bundle I personally recommend for longer filming sessions or commercial applications, because it's going to give you considerably more time to plan, test, repeat a flight path, and then review what you're capturing without feeling rushed. Now the standard battery keeps the drone at approximately 249 grams and is rated for up to 24 minutes of flight. The high capacity battery, on the other hand, increases the drone's weight to approximately 291 grams and is rated for up to 39 minutes. Now those numbers represent ideal testing conditions. In my real world use, I've been getting around 30 minutes with the extended battery, which is excellent in my opinion. 30 minutes is more than enough time to establish a flight path, run it multiple times, check your positioning, hover, test framing ideas, and then still return with a comfortable battery margin. For commercial work in the United States, the 249 gram distinction does not remove the Part 107 registration requirement. All drones under Part 107 must be registered regardless of whether they're below 250 grams. And even this video that you're watching right now, which is monetized on YouTube, technically requires a Part 107 license. Now for purely recreational flying, the weight difference may affect registration requirements, so buyers should understand which battery and bundle they are purchasing. So realistically, if you're going to use this for business or to make money, you're going to have to register it anyways, so you might as well just get the bundle with the bigger batteries, right? I would. Now the included charging hub is also very convenient. You've got 2 batteries that slide directly into the main dock, and then a third one connects to the flip out rear section. Once powered, the display shows the charge level and current status of each battery. That makes it really easy to quickly see which battery has the most available charge before heading out or swapping batteries on location. Now the A1 includes optical sensing, which is especially useful for newer pilots who may have difficulty judging distance through goggles. And you can configure how the aircraft responds when it detects an obstacle. It can brake and stop, attempt to bypass the object, or allow you to disable obstacle avoidance completely. Now there will be situations, especially when flying indoors, where disabling it is going to be necessary. For example, the aircraft is probably going to recognize a narrow doorway as an obstacle and refuse to pass through. So if you intentionally need to fly through that opening, you're going to have to disable avoidance and then rely on careful manual control. But this is also where the propeller guards become really valuable. They add another layer of protection around walls, doorways, branches, and tighter spaces. Return to home has also worked very well in my testing. During one test, I disconnected the drone from the controller and it began returning along its original route. Now, when it encountered a tree blocking that path, it actually recognized the obstacle, climbed over it, and then it continued home. In another test, I'd actually launched from underneath a tree canopy. When the drone returned and began descending, it actually recognized that the branches were blocking the landing area and it stopped the descent instead of attempting to land through the canopy. And I'll tell you that that was a very reassuring safety feature. However, I always recommend testing return to home in a large open environment before relying on it. Now, if you're flying indoors, you should also review your fail-safe settings. In many closed environments, setting the drone to hover after a signal loss may be safer than allowing it to climb or attempt an automatic return. When it comes to intelligent flight features, the A1 also includes several flight tools. Active tracking is useful for recreational filming, travel content, fitness, vehicles, and following a subject through a larger open environment. For real estate, tracking probably won't be the feature most agents use every day, but it can create some interesting establishing shots, such as following a vehicle toward a property entrance or showing someone arriving at a location. SkyGenie offers several automatic cinematic movements, including orbits, arc shots, and spiral ascents, and these can be especially useful for creators who want polished movements without manually following every detail themselves. For a property more specifically, an elevated orbit above trees or power lines can be a reliable establishing shot, depending on the location and the surrounding environment. The biggest recommendation here is to test these features somewhere safe first. Get out and have a little fun. Try them on a church, a lighthouse, a field, or another isolated subject so that you understand how far the drone travels and what kind of footage each movement creates before using it around a client's property. Now, the biggest advantage of the A1 is that one flight can produce several completely different camera angles. With a traditional drone, what you frame during the flight is what you're gonna get. So if your pan is too early or your turn is too late or your camera isn't pointing exactly where you wanted, you may have to repeat that entire flight. With a 360 drone, you're capturing every direction at the same time. That means you can change the viewer's perspective later and potentially create several finished shots from one flight. The real key here is learning to stop thinking only about where the camera is pointing. Instead, you should be thinking about the drone's flight path, the height, the speed, and distance from the subject. Because you're not necessarily collecting finished shots while flying, you're collecting possibilities. And once you understand the difference, the workflow becomes way more flexible. So for real estate, that could mean one clean pass around a property becomes a forward-facing shot, a side angle, a top-down view, maybe a reveal, or several separate social media clips without flying the route again. If we look at the software experience, when it comes to quick social media content, the mobile app is very capable. You can transfer footage, use automated edits, reframe clips, and export something quickly without sitting down at a computer. But for larger projects, especially real estate or longer edits, I would personally use the Insta360 Studio app on desktop. Now 360 files are large and the desktop environment is going to give you more control and a better workspace. One of my favorite parts of the workflow is that the footage contains preset viewing orientations. So after transferring the files, you can select from several ready-made perspectives instead of building every angle manually from scratch. And if those views don't give you exactly what you need, you can still add keyframes and fully control the camera direction throughout the clip. You can also switch to different perspectives. I like the linear perspective, which reduces the exaggerated fisheye experience and gives the footage a more natural, traditional camera look. The software also allows you to adjust speed, create speed ramps, trim footage, and make basic color adjustments such as exposure, saturation, and clarity. And one of the biggest features I especially appreciate as an editor is the ability to export the individual clips on the timeline as separate. And one of the biggest features I especially appreciate as an editor is the ability to export the individual clips on the timeline as separate files. This means that I can create several different angles or edits, export them individually, and then use those files inside of Final Cut Pro or another editing program without having to export one long timeline and then cut everything apart again. It sounds like a small feature, but I'm telling you that it is huge because it saves a ton of time trying to export individual clips. And this is something that even Final Cut Pro or CapCut does not have. That is reason enough just to download the desktop app. So after about a month of flying the A1, honestly, I don't have a long list of negatives. It's beginner friendly, it's intuitive, it's stable, immersive, and everything else really feels premium. The 360 capture creates an enormous number of possibilities, and the software makes reframing much easier than I expected. The main consideration is file size. Because the drone is recording a full 360 image using multiple lenses, the files are naturally much larger than ordinary camera drone footage. So if you're planning to shoot regularly, I'd recommend having at least 1 terabyte of fast external storage available for editing and archiving. You may also want to compress older project files once everything has been delivered. But beyond that, many of the potential pros and cons depend on what you're comparing the A1 against. We'll address that directly in part 4, where I compare it with traditional consumer drones and FPV to explain where each platform has an advantage. At this point though, we have a solid understanding of what the A1 is capable of, but reviewing features is one thing. The real test is putting all of these features together on an actual property. And that's exactly what we'll be doing in part 3, where I'm gonna walk through the real estate capture process, show the footage from a large home, break down the reframing workflow, and explain where I think the A1 fits into a professional property shoot. So if you want to learn more, I'll drop a link down below, but actually the Antigravity is on sale right now for Labor Day. It's a limited time sale, 25% off, up to $480. And the first 10 people who use my code in the link right here during checkout can actually get a free flight battery, which is valued at $100, and 20% off of a care plan. So once again, it's a limited time sale, but this is a perfect drone for beginners. So if you want to check that out, the links are all down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any additional questions, drop those down below.